He never expected his careless words to change his life forever. A cocky CEO's reckless vow to marry the next woman who walked through his office door turned from a joke to destiny when the beautiful black intern stepped inside. When Amara Lewis entered his world, Ethan Calloway's privileged bubble shattered, revealing how far his controlling mother would go to sabotage their relationship, and how cruel society could be to a love that dared cross boundaries of race and class. As tabloid headlines turned their private romance into public scandal, Amara faced a devastating choice: stay and watch the man she loved lose everything, or walk away to save him from himself. Through tears, betrayal, and ultimatums, their story proves that sometimes the heart's greatest risk becomes its greatest reward. But at what cost? Subscribe and leave a comment if you've ever had to choose between protecting someone you love or fighting for the relationship you both deserve. The afternoon sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Calloway Tech's executive floor. Ethan Calloway leaned back in his leather chair, watching his employees laugh and chat around the conference table. The quarterly review had gone better than anyone hoped. Sales were up and the new app was a hit. It was time to celebrate. To another successful quarter, Mark Benson, Ethan's chief operating officer and oldest friend, raised his coffee mug in a mock toast. Tall, with warm brown eyes, Mark had been by Ethan's side since college. "Though I still think you work too much, man." Ethan ran a hand through his sandy blonde hair and smiled. At 29, he was one of the youngest CEOs in the city. His blue eyes sparkled with pride as he looked around at his team. "Maybe I should get you a puppy for Christmas," joked Sophie from marketing. "Something to keep you company in that big empty penthouse of yours." Laughter filled the room. Ethan's single status was a running joke at the company. He dated occasionally, but nothing serious ever stuck. Women came and went, usually the daughters of his mother's wealthy friends or models he met at charity events. "A puppy." Mark shook his head. "What he needs is a wife." More laughter erupted as Ethan rolled his eyes. "Come on, guys," he protested, but he was smiling. "I'm doing just fine on my own." "Sure you are," Mark teased. "That's why you're here until midnight most nights." "When's the last time you even went on a date?" Ethan felt a flash of annoyance. His friend knew him too well. Behind his confident smile and designer suits, Ethan was lonely. He had everything he'd ever wanted: a successful company, money, respect, but no one to share it with. "I date," he defended himself. "Just last week I took that girl from the Johnson party out." "And?" Mark pressed. Ethan shrugged. "She talked about her Instagram followers all night." The room erupted in laughter again. Ethan felt his pride flare up. He hated being the butt of jokes, even friendly ones. "Fine," he said, standing suddenly. The room quieted. Ethan's blue eyes flashed with a mix of humor and defiance. "You want me to find someone? I'll do you one better. I'm so tired of these games that I'll marry the next girl who walks in that door." He pointed dramatically to his office door. The team's eyes widened. "Now that's what I call desperate," Mark laughed, but there was concern in his eyes. He knew how stubborn Ethan could be. "I'm not desperate," Ethan fired back. "I'm efficient. Why waste time dating when I can just—" The door opened. Everyone froze. A young woman stepped in, carrying a stack of files. She had rich, dark skin and wore her curly black hair in a neat bun. Her simple white blouse and pencil skirt were professional, but couldn't hide her natural grace. She had large, expressive brown eyes that now widened with confusion at the sudden silence. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I was told to bring these reports to Mr. Calloway." Her voice was warm and melodic. Ethan couldn't speak. He'd seen this woman around the office before, but never really noticed her. Now, with everyone's eyes darting between them, he felt like he was seeing her for the first time. "Amara, right?" Mark finally broke the silence. "From the marketing team?" "I'm an intern, sir," she corrected gently. "I've been here 3 months. She glanced around the room, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. "Should I come back later?" Ethan found his voice. "No, please, come in." He gestured to his desk, ignoring the meaningful looks his team was exchanging. His face felt hot. Amara walked forward, her movements graceful despite her obvious nervousness. She placed the files on his desk and turned to leave. "Wait," Ethan said suddenly. He didn't know what to say next, but he couldn't let her just walk out. Not after what he'd just declared. Not when his heart was suddenly racing like this. "What's your full name?" "Amara Lewis, sir," she replied, looking puzzled. Ethan nodded as if memorizing it. Thank you, Amara Lewis. She gave him a small, confused smile and left, closing the door behind her. The room remained silent for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. You can't be serious? Did you see his face? She's just an intern. Ethan held up his hand for silence. Meeting adjourned, he said firmly. We'll pick this up tomorrow. As the room cleared, Mark stayed behind, concern written on his face. Ethan, you're not actually going to... I said what I said. Ethan cut him off, his jaw set stubbornly. She's an intern. So, Mark sighed. So she works for you. So this is completely inappropriate. So you don't even know her. Ethan looked out the window at the city skyline. He'd built his company on taking risks that others thought were crazy. He'd never let fear of failure stop him before. Why start now? I'm going to ask her to dinner, he decided. Mark groaned. This is a bad idea, Ethan smiled. Those are my favorite kind. Amara Lewis sat at her small desk in the marketing department, trying to focus on her work. Something weird had happened in the CEO's office, and she couldn't shake the feeling that it had something to do with her. Everyone had been staring, and Mr. Calloway had acted so strange. Did you hear about the new campaign? Asked Tyler, another intern. Amara shook her head, grateful for the distraction. Not yet. What's it about? Before Tyler could answer, a hush fell over the office. Amara looked up to see Ethan Calloway himself walking through the marketing department. His tall figure and confident stride turned heads as he moved purposefully between the desks, straight toward her. Amara's heart jumped into her throat. Had she done something wrong? Was there a problem with the reports? Ethan stopped at her desk, and Amara felt every eye in the room on them. Miss Lewis, he said, his voice smooth and confident. May I have a word with you? Amara nodded, not trusting herself to speak. She followed him to a small meeting room, her mind racing through possibilities. Was she being fired? Had she made a mistake on the reports? Ethan closed the door and turned to face her. Up close, he was even more handsome than the company photos suggested. His blue eyes were intense, his jaw strong. I want to apologize for how strange things must have seemed earlier, he began. Amara relaxed slightly. It's okay. I should have knocked. No, you did nothing wrong. He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. This is going to sound unusual, but I'd like to take you to dinner tonight. Amara blinked in surprise. Dinner with you? Yes. His confidence faltered slightly at her reaction. If you're available. Amara's mind whirled. The CEO of Callaway Tech was asking her, a junior marketing intern, to dinner. It made no sense. Why? She blurted out. Ethan seemed taken aback by the direct question. Because I'd like to get to know you better, he said after a moment. Amara studied him carefully. She'd heard stories about Ethan Calloway, his wealth, his success, his string of beautiful dates. She was nobody special, just a girl from a middle-class family who had worked hard for her internship. Is this some kind of joke? She asked quietly. Something flashed in his eyes, surprised, maybe even hurt. No, definitely not a joke. Amara thought for a long moment. Her mother had always told her to trust her gut. Right now, her gut was telling her something wasn't right. But there was also curiosity, and yes, a flutter of excitement she couldn't ignore. Okay, she said finally. Dinner. Relief spread across his face. Great, I'll pick you up at 7. Where should I? I'll meet you there, Amara interrupted. She wasn't about to give her address to a man she barely knew, CEO or not. Just text me the restaurant. Of course, he pulled out his phone. Your number? After exchanging contact information, Amara returned to her desk, her head spinning. The whispers started immediately. What did he want? Are you in trouble? Why was he talking to you? Amara forced a smile. Just some questions about the reports, she lied. She wasn't ready to share the truth. She wasn't sure she even understood it herself. At 7:15 that evening, Amara walked into Luciana's, one of the city's most exclusive Italian restaurants. She'd changed into her nicest dress, a simple navy blue number that her mother had helped her pick out for job interviews. She'd let her curly hair down from its usual work bun and added simple gold earrings. The host looked her over with barely disguised judgment. Do you have a reservation? She's with me, came Ethan's voice from behind her. He'd changed too, into a crisp light blue shirt that brought out his eyes and dark slacks that probably cost more than Amara's monthly rent. The host's demeanor changed instantly. So of course, Mr. Calloway, right this way. They were led to a quiet corner table with a view of the city lights. Ethan pulled out Amara's chair, a gesture that surprised her. Once they were seated, an awkward silence fell between them. "You look beautiful," Ethan said finally. "Thank you." Amara unfolded her napkin, needing something to do with her hands. "This place is very nice. It's one of my favorites." He paused. "Have you been here before?" "No. I don't usually eat at places where the menu doesn't have prices." As soon as the words left her mouth, Amara regretted them. She wasn't usually so blunt. But something about this whole situation had her off balance. To her surprise, Ethan laughed. "Fair point. I'll admit it's a bit much." His eyes twinkled with genuine amusement. "We could go somewhere else if you prefer." Amara shook her head. "No, this is fine. But can I ask you something?" "Anything. Why did you really ask me to dinner?" Ethan's smile faded. He looked down at his water glass, turning it slowly. "It's complicated. Try me," he met her eyes. "Before you came into my office today, I made a declaration. I was being teased about being single, and I said something rash." Amara felt a chill run through her. "What did you say?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I said I'd marry the next woman who walked into the room." Amara stared at him, waiting for the punchline. When none came, she stood up abruptly. "I think I should go." "Wait, please." Ethan reached for her hand but stopped short of actually touching her. "I know how it sounds. It sounds like I'm part of some joke." Amara's voice was quiet but firm, and I don't appreciate it. "It wasn't a joke," Ethan insisted. "It was a stupid, impulsive thing to say. But when you walked in," he trailed off, seemingly at a loss for words. "When I walked in, what?" Amara pressed. "When you walked in, I realized I meant it." His blue eyes held hers, earnest and intense. Not in a crazy, let's get married tomorrow way, but in a I want to see where this could go way. Amara slowly sat back down, studying him. "You don't even know me. I'd like to change that." He leaned forward. "Look, I know this is strange. I know you have every reason to walk out that door. But I'm asking you to stay. Have dinner with me. Talk to me. And if at the end of the night you never want to see me again, I'll respect that." The waiter appeared with menus, breaking the tension. Amara used the interruption to gather her thoughts. She should leave. This was too weird, too sudden, too everything. And yet there was something in Ethan's eyes that held her there. "Fine," she said after the waiter left. "One dinner." Relief washed over Ethan's face. "Thank you." As they ordered and began to eat, the conversation gradually became less awkward. Ethan asked about her studies, marketing with a minor in graphic design, her family, parents still happily married, one younger brother, and her goals to open her own agency someday. Amara found herself asking about his company, his friendship with Mark, and how he'd become a CEO so young. "My father started the company," Ethan explained. "He died when I was 23 and I took over. It wasn't easy. A lot of people thought I was too young, too inexperienced, but you proved them wrong," Amara observed. He smiled. "I worked harder than anyone else. I had to." By the time dessert arrived, Amara had almost forgotten the strange circumstances that had brought them together. Ethan was surprisingly easy to talk to, intelligent without being condescending, funny without trying too hard. "So," he said as they finished their chocolate mousse, "what's your verdict?" "Am I forgiven for my reckless vow?" Amara considered him. "I still think you're a little crazy, but—" She smiled slightly. "Dinner wasn't terrible." Ethan laughed. "High praise indeed." As he paid the bill and they walked out into the cool evening air, Amara felt a strange mix of emotions. Part of her was still wary. This whole situation was so unusual. But another part felt drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain. "Can I drive you home?" Ethan asked. Amara shook her head. "I'll take a cab." At his disappointed look, she added, "This was nice, but I still need to process everything." "I understand." He hesitated, then asked, "Can I see you again?" Amara looked up at him, at his hopeful expression, and felt her resolve weakening. "Maybe, but Ethan—" She took a deep breath. "Don't play games with me. I'm not a toy and I'm not a bet." Before he could respond, she turned and walked away, flagging down a taxi. As she climbed in, she glanced back to see him still standing there, watching her go with an expression she couldn't quite read. The next morning, Amara could feel the stares as soon as she walked into the office. Whispers followed her to her desk, where Tyler was waiting with wide eyes. "Is it true?" he asked as soon as she sat down. "Is what true?" Amara kept her voice casual as she turned on her computer. That you and the CEO had dinner last night, at Luciana's. Tyler leaned closer. Someone saw you there and posted about it in the company chat. Amara's stomach dropped. So much for keeping things quiet. It wasn't a big deal, she said, trying to sound nonchalant. Not a big deal. Tyler looked at her like she was crazy. Ethan Calloway doesn't just have dinner with interns. What's going on? Before Amara could answer, her phone buzzed with a text message. Coffee. I'm in the break room on your floor. It was from Ethan. Amara glanced toward the break room where she could see Ethan through the glass walls, holding 2 coffee cups and looking surprisingly nervous. People were staring, not even trying to hide their curiosity. I have to go, she told Tyler. Standing up. Oh my God, it is true, he whispered as she walked away. Amara entered the break room, acutely aware of the eyes following her. Ethan smiled when he saw her holding out a cup. I wasn't sure how you'd take it, so I brought cream and sugar, he said, indicating the packets on the table. Black is fine, she said, accepting the cup. Thanks. How are you? Well, the entire office is talking about us, so that's fun, Amara said dryly. Ethan winced. I'm sorry about that. Is this really a good idea? Amara asked quietly. You're the CEO, I'm an intern. People are going to talk, and not in a good way. Let them talk, Ethan said, his voice firm. Amara, I meant what I said last night. I wasn't joking then, and I'm not joking now. Amara studied him over her coffee cup. This is crazy. Maybe. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. But what if it's not? What if this is exactly where we're both supposed to be? Amara shook her head, but she couldn't help the small smile that tugged at her lips. You don't give up easily, do you? Not when something matters, he said simply. The sincerity in his voice caught her off guard. For a man with such wealth and power, he seemed almost vulnerable in that moment. I should get back to work, she said after a pause. Of course. He stepped back. But Amara, I meant every word. She left the break room with more questions than answers. The rest of the day passed in a blur of stolen glances, whispered comments and text messages from Ethan that made her smile despite herself. Is the gossip terrible? I can have them all fired. Kidding, mostly. Mark says I'm acting like a teenager. He's probably right. What are you doing after work? To the last one, Amara finally replied, going home, alone. I need some space to think. His response came quickly. I understand. But just so you know, I'm not going anywhere. The rest of the week continued in much the same way. Ethan found reasons to visit the marketing department. He brought her coffee in the mornings. He sent texts that were charming without being pushy. By Friday, Amara found herself looking forward to seeing him, even as the office gossip continued to swirl. Some people were kind, offering smiles of encouragement. Others were less so, suggesting she was only receiving attention because of her looks or making cruder insinuations. Tasha, a graphic designer, and the closest thing Amara had to a friend at work, cornered her in the women's restroom. Girl, what are you doing? She demanded. The CEO, really? It's not what people think, Amara defended herself. Then what is it? Tasha crossed her arms. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like the rich white boss is playing some kind of game with the black intern, and that never ends well for the intern. Amara flinched. It's not like that. Are you sure? Because men like Ethan Calloway don't typically date women like us. Not seriously, anyway. Maybe he's different, Amara said, but doubt crept into her voice. Tasha's expression softened. Look, I'm just worried about you. Be careful, okay? That afternoon, Ethan texted again. Any chance you'd agree to a walk with me after work? Just around the park. Public place, lots of people, no pressure. Amara hesitated, Tasha's warning echoing in her mind. But after a day of whispers and judgmental looks, the thought of a quiet walk with someone who actually wanted to hear what she had to say was tempting. Okay, meet you at the front doors at 5:30. When she met Ethan outside, he looked different, more relaxed in jeans and a simple sweater than in his usual suit. They walked to the nearby park in comfortable silence, the evening sun casting a golden glow over the trees. Thank you for coming, Ethan said as they followed a winding path. I know this week hasn't been easy for you. Amara nodded. People talk. Does it bother you? What they say? She considered the question. Some of it does. I've worked hard to be taken seriously. I don't want people thinking I'm getting special treatment because of whatever this is." Ethan stopped walking and turned to face her. "I can promise you that your work stands on its own. You're talented, Amara. That's not why I'm interested in you, but it's something I respect about you." His words warmed her, but caution held her back. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Have you ever dated someone like me before?" Ethan's brow furrowed. "Someone as smart as you? As interesting as you? Someone who looks like me," Amara clarified. "Someone black." Understanding dawned on his face. "Ah." He was quiet for a moment. "The honest answer is no. But not for the reason you might think." "What's the reason, then?" He started walking again, slower this time. "My dating life has mostly been arranged by my mother. Society girls from the right families, models who look good in photos beside me." He sighed. "It sounds awful when I say it out loud, but that's the truth. I never really challenged it until now." "And now?" Amara prompted. Ethan stopped beneath a large oak tree, its leaves rustling in the breeze. "Now I realize how empty all of that was. How lonely I've been, even surrounded by people." He looked into her eyes. "When you walked into my office that day, it was like waking up." Seeing clearly for the first time, Amara's heart beat faster. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. Part of her wanted to believe him. Another part reminded her that men like Ethan were used to getting what they wanted. "That sounds nice," she said carefully, "but hard to believe." "I know," he smiled ruefully. "If I were in your shoes, I'd be skeptical too. But Amara," he took a breath, "I've never felt this way about anyone. And I know it's fast, and I know it sounds crazy, but I think there could be something real between us, if you're willing to find out." The sincerity in his voice, in his eyes, was hard to dismiss. In that moment, away from the office and the stairs and the gossip, it was just the two of them, a man and a woman standing under a tree as the sun began to set. "I'm scared," Amara admitted quietly. "Not just of what people will say, but of getting hurt. Men have made big promises to me before, only to disappear when things got difficult." "I'm not going anywhere," Ethan said firmly. He hesitantly reached for her hand, giving her plenty of time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers gently closed around hers. "Whatever happens, whatever people say, I'm right here." The warmth of his hand around hers felt right in a way Amara couldn't explain. She looked up at him, at his blue eyes, his hopeful smile, and felt the walls around her heart begin to crack. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's see where this goes." Ethan's smile could have lit up the darkening park. They continued their walk hand in hand, talking about everything and nothing, as the first stars appeared in the evening sky. 2 weeks passed. Amara and Ethan fell into a comfortable routine of lunch dates, evening walks, and stolen moments between meetings. The office gossip had settled into a low hum, though Amara still caught curious glances when she walked through the halls. She was learning to ignore them, focusing instead on her work and the strange, wonderful feeling growing inside her heart. "You're humming," Tasha pointed out one morning as they worked on a presentation together. "You never hum," Amara smiled. "Am I?" "Mm-hmm." Tasha studied her friend's face. "He really makes you that happy?" "He's different than I expected," Amara admitted. "Not just some rich playboy. He listens when I talk. He remembers little things." She blushed slightly. "Yesterday he brought me my favorite coffee, without me having to tell him what it was. He'd been paying attention." Tasha's expression softened. "That's sweet." "I'm still worried, but I want you to be happy." "Thanks." Amara squeezed her friend's hand. "That means a lot." Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Lunch today?" "I want to ask you something." Amara smiled as she typed back, "Sure, meet you in the lobby at 12. When lunchtime came, Ethan was waiting by the front doors, looking handsome in his dark suit. His face lit up when he saw her, a reaction that still surprised Amara each time. "Hi," he said, leaning down to kiss her cheek softly. "Ready to go?" They walked to a small cafe nearby, finding a quiet table in the corner. After they ordered, Ethan seemed nervous, fidgeting with his napkin. "Everything okay?" Amara asked. He took a deep breath. "I was wondering if you'd be free this Sunday." "For lunch? Sunday?" "Sure, at my family's estate," he added quickly. "With my mother." Amara's sandwich stopped halfway to her mouth. "Your mother?" Ethan nodded. "It's a monthly tradition. Sunday lunch at the estate." And I'd like you to come with me. Amara set her sandwich down carefully. Meeting Ethan's mother was a big step, one that made their relationship suddenly feel very real. And from the little Ethan had shared, Clara Calloway was not a woman to be taken lightly. Do you think that's a good idea? She asked cautiously. I think it's time, Ethan said, reaching across the table for her hand. You're important to me, Amara. I want my family to know you. His blue eyes were so earnest, so hopeful. Amara felt her resistance melting. Okay, she agreed. But what should I wear? What should I say? What if she doesn't like me? Ethan squeezed her hand. Just be yourself. That's who I'm crazy about. The word crazy hung in the air between them. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something close, something growing stronger every day. Sunday arrived too quickly. Amara stood in front of her closet, trying on outfit after outfit, while her best friend from college, Jade, watched from the bed. The blue dress, Jade decided after the 6th change. It's pretty, but not trying too hard. Amara examined herself in the mirror. The simple blue wrap dress was elegant without being flashy. You think? Definitely. Jade came to stand behind her. So this is serious, huh? Meeting the mom? Amara nodded, her stomach churning with nerves. I guess so. You don't sound thrilled. I'm just scared. Amara turned to face her friend. What if his mom hates me? What if she takes one look at me and decides I'm not good enough for her son? Then she's an idiot, Jade said firmly. You're amazing, Amara Lewis, and if Ethan can see that, hopefully his mom will too. At noon, Ethan picked her up in his sleek black car. His eyes widened appreciatively when he saw her. You look beautiful, he said, kissing her cheek. You don't think it's too casual? Amara fretted, smoothing her dress. It's perfect. You're perfect. The drive to the Calloway estate took 30 minutes, leaving the city behind for rolling countryside. When they turned onto a long tree-lined driveway, Amara gasped. The estate was practically a mansion, a sprawling 2-story stone house with immaculate gardens stretching in all directions. You grew up here? She asked in awe. Ethan nodded. Home sweet home. He parked in front of the house and came around to open her door. As they walked up the stone steps, Amara took deep breaths to calm her racing heart. A uniformed housekeeper greeted them at the door. Good afternoon, Mr. Calloway. Your mother is in the garden room. Ethan took Amara's hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze as they walked through the grand entrance hall. The inside of the house was just as impressive as the outside. High ceilings, antique furniture, and what looked like real paintings on the walls. Your home is beautiful, Amara whispered. It's a bit much, Ethan admitted. I prefer my penthouse. It's smaller, but it feels like mine. This place has always been my mother's domain. They entered a bright room with glass walls looking out over a stunning flower garden. A slender woman with perfectly coiffed silver blonde hair stood with her back to them, arranging flowers in a crystal vase. Mother, Ethan called softly. Clara Calloway turned, her face a study in elegance. She looked to be in her mid-50s, with Ethan's blue eyes and a practiced smile that didn't quite reach them. Ethan, darling. She moved forward to kiss his cheek, then turned her gaze to Amara. And you must be the young lady I've heard about. Mother, this is Amara Lewis, Ethan said. Amara, my mother, Clara Calloway. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Calloway, Amara said, extending her hand. Clara took it briefly. Please call me Clara. Any friend of Ethan's is welcome here. The slight pause before the word friend wasn't lost on Amara. Shall we have lunch? Clara continued smoothly. Cook has prepared something special. They moved to a smaller dining room where a table was set with fine china and crystal glasses. As they ate, Clara kept the conversation flowing with questions about Amara's background, education, and family. Her tone was polite, but Amara felt like she was being interviewed or perhaps investigated. And your parents, what do they do? Clara asked. My father is a high school principal and my mother is a nurse, Amara answered. They've been married for 30 years. How quaint, Clara said with a thin smile. And they live in the city? In Oakwood, actually. It's a suburb about 20 miles east. Ah, yes, I believe we funded a community center there once, for a charity event. The way she said it made Oakwood sound like a charity case itself. Amara felt a flare of defensiveness. It's a wonderful community, she said firmly. Strong families, good schools. I was lucky to grow up there. Ethan jumped in. Amara graduated top of her class, Mother. She's brilliant with design and marketing strategy. How nice that you found someone so accomplished, dear. Clara's eyes flickered between them. And how did this relationship begin? Ethan mentioned something about a meeting in his office. Amara glanced at Ethan, wondering how much he had shared. We met when Amara brought some reports to a meeting, he said carefully. I was immediately struck by her poise. Clara's eyebrow arched slightly. I see. And now you're dating? An intern at your own company. Amara's talent speaks for itself, Ethan said, his voice hardening slightly. Her position has nothing to do with us. Of course not, Clara said smoothly. I'm sure you're very professional about it all. A tense silence fell over the table. Amara took a sip of water, wishing the lunch would end. I should check on dessert, Clara announced, standing. Ethan, would you help me for a moment? Once they were gone, Amara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The lunch was not going well. Clara's politeness barely masked her disapproval, and Amara felt scrutinized with every bite she took. She stood up, needing a moment alone. Walking to the window, she looked out over the perfectly manicured gardens and tried to calm her nerves. From the kitchen, she could hear raised voices, Clara and Ethan arguing. Curiosity drew her closer to the doorway. What are you thinking, Ethan? Clara's voice was low but sharp. An intern? A girl from Oakwood. Don't talk about her like that, Ethan replied, his voice tight with anger. Amara is smart, kind, and good for me. Good for you? Clara scoffed. She's using you! Can't you see that? Girls like her see men like you and dollar signs light up in their eyes. You don't know her at all. I know her type. This girl isn't for you, Ethan. She doesn't belong in our world. Amara stepped back from the door, her cheeks burning with shame and anger. She shouldn't be surprised. This was what she had feared all along, that Ethan's family would see her as not good enough, as an outsider trying to climb the social ladder. She grabbed her purse and slipped out the front door. Outside, she took deep gulps of fresh air, fighting back tears. She would call a car service. She needed to get away from here, from Clara's judgmental eyes and thinly veiled insults. Before she could pull out her phone, the front door opened and Ethan hurried out, looking worried. Amara, there you are. I was afraid you'd left. I was about to, she admitted. I heard you and your mother. Ethan's face fell. I'm so sorry. She had no right to say those things. But she did say them, Amara pointed out, and she meant them. My mother doesn't know what she's talking about, Ethan said firmly. She doesn't know you, Amara, not like I do. Maybe she sees things more clearly than you do, Amara said quietly. Maybe she's right that I don't belong in your world. That's not true. Ethan took her hands in his. Look, my mother comes from a different generation, with different values. She'll come around eventually, but even if she doesn't, he took a deep breath. It doesn't change how I feel about you. Amara looked up at him, at the sincerity in his blue eyes. And how do you feel about me? Before he could answer, the front door opened again and Clara appeared, her expression carefully controlled. There you are. Is everything all right? We were just getting some fresh air, Mother, Ethan said, not letting go of Amara's hands. Well, dessert is served. Will you be joining us, Miss Lewis? Clara's tone made it clear what answer she preferred. Amara looked at Ethan, whose eyes pleaded with her to stay. Yes, she decided. Thank you, Mrs. Calloway. The rest of lunch passed in strained politeness. When they finally left, Amara felt as if she'd run a marathon. Sitting in Ethan's car as they drove away, she let out a long sigh. I'm really sorry about that, Ethan said again. My mother can be difficult. She loves you, Amara said fairly. She wants what's best for you. You're what's best for me. He reached over to take her hand. I'm not going to let her opinion come between us. Amara wanted to believe him. But as they drove back to the city, she couldn't shake the feeling that Clara Calloway might be a more formidable opponent than either of them realized. A week later, Ethan stopped by Amara's desk with an envelope. What's this? She asked, taking it. The annual Calloway Tech Charity Gala is this Saturday, he explained. I want you to come with me. Amara opened the envelope to find an elegant invitation. As your date. As my date, he confirmed with a smile. Is that okay? Amara hesitated. After the disaster with his mother, she wasn't sure she was ready to face more of Ethan's world. But the hopeful look in his eyes was hard to resist. I'd love to, she said finally. But I don't know if I have anything to wear to something like this. Ethan's face lit up. Let me take care of that, please. That afternoon, a large box was delivered to Amara's apartment. Inside was the most beautiful dress she had ever seen, a floor-length gown in deep emerald green, with a sweetheart neckline and delicate beading. A note from Ethan read, "I saw this and thought of your eyes. No pressure if it's not your style." Amara tried on the dress, twirling in front of her mirror. It fit perfectly, highlighting her curves while remaining elegant. She felt like a princess. She called Tasha immediately. "I need help with makeup and hair. Emergency beauty session on Saturday afternoon." "For the gala?" "Girl, I'm already on my way over." On Saturday evening, Ethan arrived to pick her up, looking devastatingly handsome in a black tuxedo. His eyes widened when she opened the door. "Wow," he breathed. "You're stunning," Amara blushed. Tasha had worked magic, styling her natural curls into an elegant updo with a few tendrils framing her face. "You clean up pretty well yourself." The gala was held at the city's most prestigious hotel. As they entered the ballroom, Amara felt all eyes turn toward them. She gripped Ethan's arm a little tighter. "Nervous?" he asked quietly. "A little," she admitted. "Everyone's staring." "That's because you're the most beautiful woman in the room," he said simply. Throughout the evening, Ethan introduced her to business associates, friends, and charity partners. Most were polite, some were genuinely friendly, and a few gave her looks of barely disguised curiosity or judgment. Amara did her best to stay poised, grateful for Ethan's steady presence beside her. "Ethan, darling." The voice made them both turn. Clara Calloway glided toward them, elegant in a silver gown, accompanied by a tall man Amara didn't recognize. "Mother, I didn't know you'd be here," Ethan said, kissing her cheek. "I wouldn't miss it," Clara replied, her eyes sliding past Amara. "You remember Vivian Richardson, don't you? Her father just merged his tech company with Brennan Industries. Such an exciting venture." A stunning blonde woman stepped forward, her smile dazzling. "Ethan, it's been too long." "Vivian," Ethan greeted her politely. "Nice to see you again." "You two should catch up," Clara suggested, with a meaningful look at her son. "I'm sure Vivian would love to hear about your new app launch." Amara felt Ethan tense beside her. She could read the situation clearly. Clara was pushing him toward a more suitable woman, right in front of her. "Actually," Ethan said firmly, taking Amara's hand, "I'd like to introduce you both to Amara Lewis. She's with me tonight." The way he emphasized the word "with" left no doubt about their relationship. Vivian's smile dimmed slightly, while Clara's lips thinned in displeasure. "We've met," Clara said coolly. "How nice that you could attend, Miss Lewis." "Thank you for having me," Amara replied, keeping her voice steady. "It's a wonderful event." An awkward silence fell. Clara's eyes darted between Ethan and Amara, clearly displeased by what she saw. "Well," Vivian said brightly, breaking the tension, "I should circulate." "Lovely to see you, Ethan." She moved away, leaving them with Clara. "Mother," Ethan said in a low voice, "I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't try to matchmake when I'm here with someone." "I was merely being social, dear," Clara replied innocently. "Vivian is from a good family." "You've known her for years." "And I'm here with Amara," Ethan said firmly. "She's with me." "That's not going to change because you parade other women in front of me." Clara's eyes narrowed. "Don't make a scene, Ethan. We'll discuss this later." She swept away, leaving Amara feeling like she'd been caught in a hurricane. Ethan turned to her, his expression apologetic. "I'm sorry about that." "It's okay," Amara said, though it wasn't, not really. "She's your mother. She wants what she thinks is best for you." Ethan shook his head. "What's best for me is what makes me happy." He took both her hands in his. "And you, Amara Lewis, make me very happy." The sincerity in his voice made her heart skip. "Even when I cause drama with your mother?" "Especially then," he said with a small smile. Nobody stands up to Clara Calloway. It's refreshing. The orchestra began playing a slow song. Ethan's eyes lit up. "Dance with me?" He led her to the dance floor, drawing her into his arms. As they swayed to the music, Amara felt the tension of the evening melting away. In Ethan's embrace, with his blue eyes looking down at her so tenderly, nothing else seemed to matter. "I don't care what anyone thinks," he murmured, his lips close to her ear. "I choose you, Amara. I choose us." Later that night, as Ethan drove her home, Amara felt both exhausted and exhilarated. The evening had been a roller coaster of emotions. The thrill of being with Ethan, the sting of Clara's disapproval, So the curious or judgmental looks from others. You were amazing tonight, Ethan said as they pulled up to her apartment building. Thank you for coming with me. Thank you for inviting me, she replied. And for the dress. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever worn. You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, he said softly. He walked her to her door, standing close as she fumbled with her keys. The air between them seemed to crackle with energy. Ethan, she began, not sure what she wanted to say. Before she could continue, he leaned down and kissed her softly on the lips. It was gentle questioning, giving her every chance to pull away. Instead, she found herself leaning into the kiss, her hand coming up to rest on his chest. When they finally broke apart, Ethan's eyes were dark with emotion. I've been wanting to do that since the moment you walked into my office, Amara smiled. What took you so long? He laughed, pressing his forehead to hers. Good night, Amara Lewis. Dream of me? Maybe, she teased, though she knew she would. She watched him walk back to his car, her lips still tingling from his kiss. Despite Clara's disapproval, despite the whispers and stares, Amara couldn't deny the truth any longer. She was falling for Ethan Calloway. And it was both the most wonderful and terrifying feeling in the world. Over the next 2 weeks, Amara and Ethan grew closer. They went to movies, ate at small restaurants where they wouldn't be recognized, and spent quiet evenings talking at his penthouse or her apartment. Each day, Amara found new things to love about him, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, his passion for his company, his unexpected kindness to everyone from restaurant servers to office cleaning staff. One evening, Tasha invited Amara for drinks at their favorite bar. As they settled into a booth with colorful cocktails, Tasha fixed her with a serious look. Okay, spill. How serious is this thing with the CEO? Amara stirred her drink, not meeting her friend's eyes. Pretty serious, I think. You think? Girl, the whole office is talking about how he can't keep his eyes off you. Is that bad? Amara asked. Tasha sighed. It's not bad. It's just, I'm worried about you. Men like Ethan Calloway don't usually end up with women like us for the long haul. I don't want to see you get hurt. Maybe he's different, Amara said defensively. Maybe, Tasha conceded. But be careful, okay? Don't let a rich man use you for a stunt or a fling. Amara thought of Ethan's tender kisses, the way he listened when she spoke, how he stood up to his mother for her. It's not a stunt, she said softly. It's real. Later that night, alone in her apartment, Amara stood by the window watching the city lights and thinking about Tasha's warning. Was she being naive? Was she setting herself up for heartbreak? Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Can't sleep. Thinking of you. A smile spread across her face as she typed back, same. His response came quickly. Tomorrow after work. Come see my rooftop garden. Just us, take-out dinner, city views. Sounds perfect, she replied. The next evening, Ethan led her to the private elevator in his building. Close your eyes, he said as the doors opened on the top floor. Amara obeyed, letting him guide her forward. She felt a gentle breeze on her face and smelled something sweet and floral. Okay, open them, she gasped. They were standing on a rooftop garden that looked like something from a fairy tale. Potted trees strung with tiny lights created a canopy over comfortable seating. Flowers bloomed everywhere, their scents mingling in the evening air. Beyond the garden, the city skyline glowed in the fading light. Ethan, this is magical, she breathed. It's my secret place, he said, looking pleased at her reaction. I come up here to think, to be alone. I've never brought anyone else here before. The significance of his words wasn't lost on her. He was sharing something private, something special. They ate dinner on cushioned chairs beneath the canopy of lights, talking and laughing as darkness fell completely and the city lights grew brighter. After they finished eating, Ethan put on soft music and held out his hand. Dance with me? Without all the eyes watching this time, Amara stepped into his arms, and they swayed slowly to the music. Ethan's hands were warm on her waist, his eyes never leaving hers. You know, he said softly, I've been thinking about that day in my office. When I walked in on your reckless vow. Amara teased. Yes. His expression grew serious. I think the universe was trying to tell me something. Or maybe I was just ready to see what was right in front of me. And what was that? She asked, her heart beating faster. That sometimes the best things in life come when you least expect them. He tucked a curl behind her ear. That sometimes a person walks into your life and suddenly everything makes sense. Amara's breath caught as he leaned closer, his lips hovering just above hers. "Amara Lewis, I think I'm falling in love with you." The words sent a thrill through her entire body. "Ethan, Before she could finish, he closed the distance between them, capturing her lips in a kiss that was different from their previous ones, deeper, more passionate. Amara wound her arms around his neck, surrendering to the feeling of his mouth on hers, his arms pulling her closer. They might have stayed that way forever, if not for the sound of the elevator doors opening. They broke apart, breathless, as Mark stepped onto the rooftop. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, looking uncomfortable. "I tried calling, but you weren't answering, Ethan. The Tokyo deal is having some issues. They need you on a call in 10 minutes. Ethan sighed, his arm still around Amara. "Can't it wait until morning?" "They specifically asked for you," Mark said apologetically. His eyes darted between them. "I really am sorry." "It's okay," Amara said, stepping back. "Business is important." "Not as important as you," Ethan countered, but she could see the responsibility weighing on him. "Go take your call," she said gently. "We'll continue this another time." As Ethan reluctantly left with Mark, Amara heard his friend say quietly, "Are you sure about this man? An intern." "The board is starting to ask questions." She couldn't hear Ethan's response, but the question lingered in her mind as she gathered her things to leave. Were people questioning Ethan's judgment because of her? Was she becoming a problem for him professionally? These worries followed her home, mixing uncomfortably with the memory of Ethan's words, "I think I'm falling in love with you." The next day, Amara was working at her desk when she sensed someone standing over her. Looking up, she was shocked to see Clara Calloway. "Mrs. Calloway," she said, quickly standing. "Can I help you with something?" Clara's cool gaze swept over her. "I was hoping we could have a word in private, Miss Lewis." Feeling the curious eyes of her co-workers, Amara nodded. "Of course. There's a small conference room this way." Once they were alone with the door closed, Clara wasted no time. "I'll be direct, Miss Lewis. I want you to end your relationship with my son." Amara blinked, stunned by the bluntness. "I'm sorry. Ethan has a bright future ahead of him. The company, our family's reputation, his standing in the community, all of it could be damaged by this dalliance." "It's not a dalliance," Amara said, finding her voice. "Ethan and I care about each other." Clara's laugh was short and sharp. "My dear, you may care for him, or perhaps for what he represents. Wealth, status, security. But Ethan has a habit of becoming infatuated with novelty. Once the newness wears off, he'll move on. I'm simply trying to spare you both the inevitability." Amara felt as if she'd been slapped. "You don't know your son very well if you think that." "I've known him his entire life," Clara countered. "I want what's best for him. And you don't think I could be what's best?" Clara's eyes softened slightly, though her voice remained firm. "It's not personal, Miss Lewis. You seem like a lovely young woman. But you and Ethan come from different worlds. Eventually those differences will matter." "They don't have to," Amara insisted, "but they do." Clara leaned closer. "Think about it. The board is already questioning his judgment. His friends are concerned. How long before the pressure affects his work, his company? How long before he resents you for it?" The words hit too close to Amara's own fears. She looked down, trying to hide the tears welling in her eyes. "I care about him," she said softly. "I wouldn't hurt him." "Then prove it," Clara said. "If you truly care for my son, you'll let him go before this goes any further. Before real damage is done." With that, she turned and walked out, leaving Amara alone with her thoughts. She sank into a chair, Clara's words echoing in her mind. Was she being selfish? Was her relationship with Ethan hurting him professionally? She went to the bathroom, locking herself in a stall as tears fell freely down her cheeks. What should she do? What was the right thing for Ethan, for herself, for them both? She was still there when Tasha found her. "Amara, are you okay? Someone said they saw you talking to Clara Calloway." Amara wiped her eyes and unlocked the door. "She wants me to break up with Ethan." "What? Why?" "Because I'll ruin his reputation," Amara said bitterly. "Because we're from different worlds, because I'm not good enough." Tasha's expression hardened. "That's bull. You're amazing, and if she can't see that, it's her loss. But what if she's right?" Amara whispered. "What if I am hurting his career? The board, his friends?" "Stop." Tasha took her by the shoulders. "Do you love him?" The question caught Amara off guard. Did she love Ethan? She thought of his smile, his kindness, the way he made her feel seen and valued. Yes, she admitted. I think I do. And does he love you? Amara remembered his words on the rooftop. He said he's falling in love with me. Then that's all that matters, Tasha said firmly. Everything else is noise. That evening, Ethan texted to invite her to dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. Amara agreed, though her stomach churned with anxiety. She needed to talk to him about Clara's visit, but she dreaded bringing up the subject. When she arrived at the restaurant, she was surprised to find not just Ethan waiting, but Clara as well, along with several people she recognized from the board of directors. Amara! Ethan stood to greet her, kissing her cheek. I hope you don't mind. Mother arranged this dinner last minute with some board members. Clara smiled thinly. So good of you to join us, Miss Lewis. Amara realized with a sinking feeling that this was another test, or perhaps a trap. Clara wanted the board members to see her, to judge whether she was suitable for the CEO of Callaway Tech. Throughout dinner, Clara subtly directed the conversation to topics where Amara's background might seem lacking: exclusive schools, country club memberships, charity boards. The board members were polite but clearly curious about the young intern who had captured their CEO's attention. So, Miss Lewis, one older man asked, what does your father do again? He's a high school principal, Amara answered proudly. He's dedicated his life to education. How admirable, Clara said in a tone that suggested the opposite. Such important work, though I imagine the compensation is modest. Ethan's jaw tightened. Mother, he warned quietly. I'm merely making conversation, dear, Clara replied innocently. As the subtle digs continued, Amara watched Ethan growing increasingly tense. This was exactly what Clara had warned about, his relationship with Amara becoming a source of stress and conflict. Finally, after Clara made a particularly pointed comment about appropriate connections for someone in Ethan's position, he set down his fork with a clatter. Enough, he said, his voice tight but controlled. The table fell silent. All eyes turned to him. Ethan stood, taking Amara's hand and drawing her up beside him. I want to make something very clear to everyone here. Amara Lewis is brilliant, kind and talented. She makes me happier than I've ever been, and she is the only one I want by my side now and in the future. Clara's face paled. Ethan, please, don't make a scene. I'm not making a scene, Mother. I'm making a statement. His blue eyes blazed with conviction. I've spent years trying to please everyone else. The board, our investors, you. But now I've found someone who makes me want to be better, who challenges me to think differently, who sees me for who I really am. And I won't let anyone make her feel unwelcome or unworthy. Amara felt tears pricking at her eyes. Ethan was standing up for her, publicly declaring his feelings without hesitation. One of the board members, an older woman with kind eyes, actually began to applaud softly. Well said, young man. Clara looked mortified. Without another word, she stood and left the table, her back rigid with anger. The dinner broke up shortly after, with board members offering polite goodbyes and, in some cases, warm smiles to Amara. Outside the restaurant, Amara turned to Ethan. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He took her hands in his. Amara, I'm sorry about all of this. My mother had no right to ambush us like that. She came to see me today, Amara admitted, at the office. Ethan's expression darkened. What? What did she say to you? That I should end things with you, that I'm hurting your reputation and your career. That's ridiculous, he said firmly. The only opinion that matters to me is yours. He cupped her face gently. Do you want to be with me? Looking into his eyes, Amara knew the answer with certainty. Yes, she whispered. I do. Then nothing else matters, he said simply. Not my mother, not the board, not anyone else's opinion. As he pulled her into a kiss right there on the sidewalk, Amara felt a weight lifting from her heart. Maybe Clara was right that they came from different worlds. But standing in Ethan's arms, those worlds didn't seem so far apart after all. The following weekend, Ethan surprised Amara with an impromptu getaway. Pack a bag, he told her. Casual clothes, maybe a swimsuit. I'm kidnapping you for 2 days. They drove for hours, leaving the city far behind. Finally, they turned onto a narrow road that led to a small cabin by a pristine lake. "What is this place?" Amara asked as they got out of the car. "My father built it," Ethan explained, unlocking the door. "It was his escape from the business world. After he died, I kept it, but I rarely come here." He looked around, a mix of nostalgia and sadness in his eyes. It's been too long. The cabin was rustic but comfortable, all wood and warm colors, with a stone fireplace and large windows overlooking the water. It felt nothing like the Callaway estate or Ethan's sleek penthouse. It felt real, unpretentious. They spent the day exploring, hiking in the woods, rowing a small boat across the lake, picnicking on the dock. Ethan seemed different here, more relaxed and carefree than Amara had ever seen him. "You should laugh more often," she told him, as they splashed in the shallows of the lake. "It suits you." "I do laugh," he protested. "Just usually not at work." "Not anywhere," she countered gently. "You carry so much on your shoulders, Ethan. The company, your mother's expectations, everything. Sometimes I think you forget to just be happy." He looked at her thoughtfully. "I am happy. Right now, with you, I'm the happiest I've ever been." That evening, they cooked dinner together in the small kitchen, bumping hips and stealing kisses as they worked. After they ate, they sat on the dock, feet dangling in the cool water, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "I want to ask you something," Ethan said, his voice serious. Amara turned to him. "What is it?" "That day in my office, when I made that stupid vow about marrying the next woman who walked in." He paused. "Do you ever think that maybe it wasn't so stupid after all? That maybe it was fate?" Amara's heart skipped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I've never felt this way about anyone before," he said softly. "I'm saying that when I'm with you, everything else falls away. All the pressure, all the expectations, none of it matters compared to how I feel about you." He took her hand, his blue eyes intense in the fading light. "I love you, Amara Lewis. I know it hasn't been long, and I know there are still obstacles ahead of us. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Tears filled Amara's eyes. "I love you too," she whispered. "For the first time, I believe this could be real." Ethan pulled her close, his kiss gentle at first, then deeper, more urgent. They made their way back to the cabin, to the bedroom with its large, soft bed. As the night wrapped around them, they discovered each other in new ways, their bodies expressing what words could not. Later, lying in Ethan's arms, Amara felt a peace she had never known before. Whatever challenges they faced, his mother, the board, the differences in their backgrounds, they would face them together. "What are you thinking?" Ethan murmured, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. Amara smiled up at him. "That I'm glad you made that ridiculous vow." He laughed, pulling her closer. "Me too, best impulsive decision of my life." They fell asleep, wrapped in each other's arms, the lake waters lapping gently at the shore outside. For these perfect hours, the rest of the world, with all its judgments and expectations, seemed very far away. They couldn't know that back in the city, their peaceful bubble was about to be violently burst. Monday morning would bring a scandal that would test their love in ways they never imagined. Monday morning dawned bright and clear. Amara woke up, smiling, stretching in her own bed with memories of the perfect weekend with Ethan, still fresh in her mind. The lake, the cabin, the way he'd told her he loved her, it all felt like a beautiful dream. She hugged her pillow, remembering the warmth of his arms around her. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Expecting a good morning text from Ethan, she reached for it eagerly. Instead, it was Tasha. "Have you seen it? Call me now." Confused, Amara called her friend. "Hello? Tasha, what? Turn on your computer." Tasha interrupted, her voice urgent. "Check the citywide news site. Right now." Amara stumbled out of bed and opened her laptop, a feeling of dread growing in her stomach. The citywide news was a gossip site known for celebrity scandals and business dirt. What could possibly... Her breath caught as the website loaded. There, on the front page, was a photo of her and Ethan. They were kissing outside the restaurant, the night he'd stood up to his mother and the board members. The headline made her stomach drop. "CEO falls for intern, love or trap." "Oh my God," Amara whispered, scrolling down to read the article. "I know," Tasha said grimly. "It gets worse. Keep reading." The article was a nasty mix of facts and insinuations. It correctly stated that Amara was an intern at Callaway Tech and that she was dating the CEO. Then it veered into ugly territory, suggesting she was using Ethan for his money and position, questioning whether she had earned her internship the traditional way, and hinting that Clara Callaway strongly disapproved of the relationship. Who would write this? Amara asked, her voice shaking. Someone who wanted to hurt you both, Tasha replied. This kind of story doesn't just happen. Someone talked to the press. Amara's phone buzzed with another text. Ethan, this time, I just saw the article. Are you okay? I'm coming over. Ethan's on his way here, Amara told Tasha. I should go. Call me later, Tasha insisted. And Amara? Don't read the comments, just don't. Amara hung up and stared at her computer screen in horror. The article had already gathered hundreds of comments, many of them cruel and some openly racist. Tears filled her eyes as she slammed the laptop shut. 20 minutes later, Ethan knocked on her door. When she opened it, his face was tight with anger and concern. I'm so sorry, he said immediately, pulling her into his arms. This is all my fault. Amara buried her face in his chest, breathing in his familiar scent. How did they get that picture? How did they know so much about us? Someone talked, Ethan said grimly, leading her to the couch. And I have a pretty good idea who. Amara looked up at him. Your mother? He nodded, jaw clenched. She's always had friends in the media. This is exactly her style. Not getting her hands dirty, but making sure the job gets done. But why would she do something that hurts you, too? Amara asked, wiping away tears. Because she thinks I'll cave to the pressure, Ethan explained. She thinks if there's enough public scrutiny, enough whispers at the company, I'll end things with you to make it all go away. Maybe you should, Amara whispered, the cruel words from the article and comments echoing in her mind. Maybe she's right. Don't say that. Ethan took her face in his hands, his blue eyes fierce. Don't let them win, Amara. What we have is real. It's worth fighting for. Amara wanted to believe him, but as she got ready for work, the fear grew stronger. How would people at the office react? Would they believe the awful things the article suggested? I'll drive you, Ethan offered. We should walk in together. Show everyone we're not ashamed or hiding. The ride to Callaway Tech was quiet, both lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, Ethan took her hand firmly in his as they walked through the lobby. Conversation stopped. People stared. Some quickly looked away. Others whispered behind their hands. Amara kept her head high, though inside she was crumbling. This was exactly what she'd feared from the beginning, becoming the center of gossip and judgment. When they reached her floor, Ethan squeezed her hand. I have an emergency board meeting this morning. Damage control. Will you be okay? I'll be fine, she assured him, though she wasn't at all sure. Go do what you need to do. He kissed her cheek, uncaring of the watching eyes, then headed to the elevator. As soon as he was gone, the whispers grew louder. Amara walked to her desk, feeling the stares like physical touches on her skin. Tasha was waiting for her. You're so brave for coming in, she said, giving Amara a quick hug. I'd have called in sick and hide. Amara shook her head. That would just make it look like the article was right. Throughout the morning, Amara tried to focus on her work, but it was nearly impossible. Some co-workers were kind, stopping by to offer support or simply treating her normally. Others were openly curious or judgmental, watching her every move. By lunchtime, she was exhausted. She escaped to a small coffee shop down the street, seeking a few minutes of peace. She had just ordered when a voice behind her made her freeze. Miss Lewis. Amara turned to find Clara Callaway standing there. Elegant in a cream-colored suit, Mrs. Callaway. Amara greeted her stiffly. What a surprise. May I join you? Clara asked, though it wasn't really a question. She was already moving toward an empty table. Feeling trapped, Amara followed. They sat across from each other, the tension thick between them. I assume you've seen this morning's article, Clara began. I have, Amara replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Did you enjoy it? Clara's eyebrows rose slightly. I had nothing to do with that unfortunate piece. Right, Amara said, not bothering to hide her disbelief. Believe what you like, Clara said with a small shrug. But I came here to help you. Help me? Amara repeated, incredulous. How exactly? Clara leaned forward. This is just the beginning, Miss Lewis. The scrutiny, the gossip, the judgment, it will only get worse. For you and for Ethan, we can handle it. Perhaps. But at what cost? Clara's blue eyes, so like Ethan's yet so much colder, studied her carefully. Ethan has worked his entire life to build his reputation, to honor his father's legacy. This relationship is putting all of that at risk. Because I'm not good enough for him? Amara challenged. Because I'm black? Because I didn't grow up with money? Because you're an intern at his company, Clara replied smoothly. Because there are appearances to maintain. Because the board is already questioning his judgment. Amara felt a chill. What do you mean? There was an emergency board meeting this morning, Clara said. Several members expressed concern about Ethan's personal choices affecting the company. This wasn't news to Amara. Ethan had mentioned the meeting. But hearing it from Clara made it sound more serious. Ethan is a grown man, Amara said firmly. He can make his own decisions. Yes, he can, Clara agreed. But those decisions have consequences. Not just for him, but for the hundreds of people who work at Callaway Tech. For his father's legacy. For his own future. Clara reached into her purse and pulled out a folded document, sliding it across the table. What's this? Amara asked, not touching it. Proof of how serious I am, Clara replied. That is a copy of the Callaway Family Trust. The one that controls Ethan's inheritance. Not just money, but voting shares in the company. Shares that give him control. Amara still didn't touch the paper. And there is a morality clause, Clara explained, her voice quiet but intense. One that gives me, as trustee, the right to withhold his inheritance if he behaves in ways that damage the family name or business interests. Amara felt sick. You would do that to your own son? I would do anything to protect my son's future, Clara corrected. Even from himself. Does Ethan know about this? He does now, Clara said. I made the situation very clear to him after the board meeting this morning. Amara thought of Ethan in that meeting, facing the board's concerns, then having his mother threaten his inheritance and control of his company. All because of her. What do you want from me? Amara asked, though she already knew the answer. I want you to release my son from whatever hold you have on him, Clara said bluntly. End this relationship before it destroys everything he's worked for. Amara stood up, her coffee untouched. Ethan loves me, she said, her voice shaking slightly. And I love him. Love? Clara's laugh was cold. Love doesn't pay bills, my dear. Love doesn't satisfy shareholders or maintain one's position in society. Love is a luxury Ethan cannot afford right now. You're wrong, Amara said, gathering her purse. And if you knew your son at all, you'd know that too. She walked out of the coffee shop, her head high but her heart heavy. Clara was a formidable enemy, and now she was threatening not just Ethan's inheritance, but his control of the company he loved. Back at the office, Amara tried to focus on work, but her mind kept returning to Clara's threats. When 5 o'clock came, she was relieved to see Ethan waiting for her by the elevators. Bad day? He asked, noting her expression. The worst, she admitted. How was your meeting? His face darkened. About as terrible as expected, but I handled it. He took her hand. Come home with me tonight. I don't want to be alone, and I don't think you should be either. At his penthouse, Ethan ordered food while Amara changed into the spare clothes she'd started keeping there. They ate on his balcony, the city lights spreading out below them like stars. I ran into your mother today, Amara finally said. At lunch, Ethan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. What did she want? To tell me about the morality clause in your family trust, Amara said quietly. To let me know she can take away your inheritance, your voting shares in the company. Ethan set down his fork, his jaw tight. I'm going to kill her. She's serious, Ethan. She really would do it. I know she would, he said grimly. She already threatened me with it this morning. Amara looked at him, her heart aching. What are we going to do? Nothing, Ethan said firmly. We're going to live our lives and be happy together. That's all that matters. But your company is important, he acknowledged, but not as important as you. They finished dinner and cleaned up together, but the evening's mood had been shattered by the day's events. As they got ready for bed, Ethan's phone rang. He checked the screen and grimaced. It's Mark. I have to take this. It's about the Tokyo deal. While Ethan took the call in his office, Amara curled up in his bed, trying to process everything that had happened. The article, Clara's threats, the looks and whispers at work, it was all becoming too much. Was she really worth all this trouble for Ethan? She hadn't meant to fall asleep, but the emotional toll of the day had exhausted her. She woke some time later to raised voices from Ethan's office. Groggy and disoriented, she slipped out of bed and moved toward the sound. "Can't believe you'd side with her on this," Ethan was saying, his voice angry. "I'm not siding with your mother," came Mark's voice. "I'm trying to be your friend. And as your friend and your COO, I'm telling you that this relationship is causing problems." "I don't care," Ethan insisted. "Well, you should," Mark shot back. "The board is talking about a vote of no confidence, Ethan. Your mother is threatening to invoke the morality clause. Investors are asking questions. All because you couldn't keep your hands off an intern." "Don't talk about Amara like that," Ethan growled. "She's not just some intern. I love her. You've known her for what, a month? And you're willing to risk everything. Your company, your inheritance, your reputation for her." There was a pause and Amara held her breath, straining to hear Ethan's answer. "I can't lose everything," he said finally, his voice softer. "The company is my father's legacy. I have to protect it." Amara's heart stopped. He couldn't lose everything, and she was causing him to risk it all. Clara was right. The company, Ethan's inheritance, his reputation, it was all in danger because of her. She backed away from the door, tears filling her eyes. She'd been selfish, thinking they could overcome all obstacles with love. But reality was crashing down around them. Ethan had worked too hard, had too much at stake to throw it all away for a relationship that had barely begun. Moving quietly, Amara changed back into her own clothes. She found a notepad in Ethan's kitchen and scribbled a quick note. "I'm sorry. I can't be the reason you lose everything." She slipped out of the penthouse as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, her heart breaking with every step. Ethan finished his call with Mark, frustrated and drained. His friend meant well, but he didn't understand. No one seemed to understand how Amara had changed everything for him. He returned to the bedroom, expecting to find her sleeping. Instead, he found an empty bed. "Amara?" he called, checking the bathroom. Nothing. A sense of dread filled him as he moved through the penthouse, calling her name. In the kitchen, he found her note. "No," he whispered, reading the words over and over. "No, no, no." He grabbed his phone and called her. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again and again. Nothing. He dressed quickly and drove to her apartment, but she didn't answer his knock. He tried calling Tasha, but she either didn't know where Amara was or wouldn't tell him. By noon, he was frantic. He'd called every hospital in the city, checked every place they'd been together, texted her so many times his thumbs hurt. Finally, desperate, he called his mother. "Ethan," Clara answered, her voice cool. "I was wondering when I'd hear from you." "Did you do something?" he demanded. "Did you talk to Amara again?" "I simply told her the truth," Clara replied. "About the trust, about the consequences of your relationship. She made her own choice after that. Where is she?" Ethan asked, his voice breaking. "Please, Mother. I need to find her. I have no idea where she is," Clara said. "But if she's left, perhaps it's for the best. For everyone involved." Ethan hung up, his hands shaking with anger and fear. Amara was gone because she thought she was protecting him, because she believed she was saving him from losing everything. But without her, he had already lost what mattered most. He drove aimlessly, passing the lake where they'd spent their perfect weekend, the restaurant where they'd had their first date, the park where they'd walked hand in hand. Finally, as evening fell, he found himself at the one place he hadn't checked, the Calloway estate. Clara was in the garden room when he stormed in, arranging flowers as if nothing was wrong. "Ethan," she greeted him calmly, "you look terrible." "This is your fault," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "You've been trying to drive us apart from the beginning." "I've been trying to protect you," Clara corrected, "from making a mistake that would cost you everything your father built." "I don't care about the money," Ethan said. "I don't care about the shares or the trust or any of it." "You should," Clara replied sharply. "Your father worked his entire life to build that company, to secure your future. And you're willing to throw it all away for some girl you barely know." "She's not just some girl," Ethan shot back. "She's smart and kind and real in a way that no one in our world ever is. She loves me for me, not for my bank account or my last name." "How can you possibly know that?" Clara demanded. "You've known her for what, a few weeks?" That's not love, Ethan, that's infatuation. No, Ethan said firmly. What I feel for Amara is real. More real than anything I've ever felt. Clara sighed, setting down her flower shears. Ethan, darling, be reasonable. There are dozens of suitable women who would make appropriate partners for someone in your position. Women with the right background, the right connections. I don't want the right woman, Ethan interrupted. I want Amara, even if it costs you your inheritance. Your company? Clara challenged. Because make no mistake, Ethan, I will invoke the morality clause if you continue this relationship. Ethan stared at his mother, really seeing her for the first time. The cold calculation in her eyes, the rigid set of her shoulders, the absolute certainty that she knew best. Had she always been like this? Had he just never noticed? Do it, he said quietly. Clara blinked. What? Invoke the clause. Take the money, take the shares. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gaining strength. If inheritance is the price, keep it all. I won't give up Amara. Clara's face paled. You can't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life, Ethan said. I've spent years trying to be the son you wanted, to run the company the way Dad would have wanted. But I've never been happy, not really. Not until Amara. You're being ridiculous, Clara scoffed. She's gone, Ethan, she left. What does that tell you about her feelings? It tells me she loves me enough to walk away to protect me, Ethan replied. Which is more than I can say for you. Clara flinched as if he'd slapped her. Everything I've done for you. No, Ethan shook his head. You've done it for yourself, for your idea of what our family should be. But I'm done living by your rules. He turned to leave, but Clara's voice stopped him. If you walk out that door, Ethan, don't expect to come back. Not while you're with her. Ethan paused, the weight of his mother's ultimatum heavy on his shoulders. Then, without looking back, he walked out, slamming the door behind him. In his car, he sat for a long moment, processing what had just happened. He had just cut ties with his mother, potentially lost his inheritance and his controlling interest in his company. And he still didn't know where Amara was. But one thing was crystal clear in his mind. He had to find her. He had to make her understand that none of the rest mattered. Without her, all of it, the money, the company, the status, was meaningless. For 3 days, Amara hid at Jade's apartment, not answering calls or texts, barely eating or sleeping. She had told Tasha where she was, but made her promise not to tell Ethan. She needed time to think, to let her heart begin to heal. She had quit her internship at Callaway Tech, sending a formal resignation by email. It was for the best, she told herself. A clean break. No more gossip, no more problems for Ethan with the board or his mother. But in the quiet moments, usually late at night, she couldn't stop the tears. She missed him, his smile, his laugh, the way he looked at her like she was the most amazing person in the world. She missed the feeling of his arms around her, the sound of his voice, even the small, everyday moments they'd shared. On the 4th day of her self-imposed exile, Jade burst into the apartment, her eyes wide. You need to see this, she said, turning on the TV. It's all over the news. Confused, Amara sat up as Jade flipped to a local news channel. There on the screen was Ethan standing at a podium in front of Callaway Tech headquarters, surrounded by reporters. Want to address the rumors and speculation about my personal life, he was saying, his voice strong and clear. Yes, I am in a relationship with Amara Lewis, who until recently was an intern at Callaway Tech. The camera flashed to photos of them together, including the kissing photo from the tabloid article. Ms. Lewis is one of the brightest, most talented individuals I've had the privilege to know, Ethan continued. Our relationship began unexpectedly, but has become the most important thing in my life. He paused, looking directly into the camera. To those who have questioned Ms. Lewis's motives or character, you could not be more wrong. She left her job and walked away from our relationship to protect me. From gossip, from board pressure, from family conflict. Amara's hand flew to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes as Ethan continued. But I don't need or want that protection. What I want is Amara, and I want her to know that I would marry her without a penny to my name, without a title, without anything but my heart to offer her. The reporters erupted with questions, but Ethan raised his hand for silence. That's all I have to say except this. Amara, if you're watching, please come home. To me, I love you. With that, he walked away from the podium, ignoring the shouted questions. Jade turned to Amara, her eyes wide. Girl, Did he just propose to you on national television? Amara couldn't speak. She was crying too hard, her hands shaking as she fumbled for her phone. There were dozens of missed calls and texts from Ethan, the most recent from just an hour ago. I meant every word. I love you. Please call me. Before she could respond, there was a knock at the door. Jade went to answer it, peering through the peephole. It's him, she whispered, turning to Amara with wide eyes. It's Ethan. Amara froze. How had he found her? Tasha, she realized. She must have told him. What do you want me to do? Jade asked. Should I tell him to go away? Amara took a deep breath, wiping away her tears. No, she said quietly. Let him in. Jade opened the door, and there he was. Ethan looked terrible, unshaven, his hair a mess, dark circles under his eyes. But when he saw Amara, his whole face lit up with hope. I'll give you two some privacy, Jade murmured, grabbing her purse and slipping out. For a long moment, Amara and Ethan just stared at each other. Then he took a step forward, his voice soft and uncertain. I thought I'd lost you. I saw your press conference, Amara said, her voice shaking. Why would you do that? Because I needed you to know the truth, he replied simply. All of it. In front of everyone. But your mother, the board, your inheritance, none of it matters without you, he interrupted, taking another step closer. Amara, when you left, it nearly killed me. These past few days have been the worst of my life. I was trying to protect you, Amara whispered. I heard what you said to Mark, about not being able to lose everything. Understanding dawned in Ethan's eyes. You heard that? Oh, Amara, no. I wasn't talking about giving you up. I was talking about finding a way to keep both you and the company. To fight for both. But your mother, I told her to keep the money, keep the shares, Ethan said firmly. If that's the price of being with you, I'll pay it gladly. Amara stared at him in shock. You'd give up your inheritance? Your control of the company? In a heartbeat. He moved closer still, close enough that she could see the sincerity in his blue eyes. I've spent my whole life trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. My father's, my mother's, the board's. But with you, I can just be me. The real me. And that's worth more than all the money in the world. Tears spilled down Amara's cheeks. I was so scared, she admitted. Scared of not being good enough, of ruining your life, of being the reason you lost everything. You could never ruin my life, Ethan said softly, reaching out to wipe away her tears. You are my life now, Amara. The only thing I'm scared of is losing you. He knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. I love you, Amara Lewis. I love your strength, your kindness, your integrity. I love the way you challenge me, the way you see me, really see me. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you if you'll have me. Amara's heart felt like it might burst. Through tears and laughter, she managed to say, Are you proposing to me, Ethan Calloway? I guess I am, he said, smiling up at her. Not exactly how I planned it, but yes, marry me, Amara. Be my wife, my partner, my best friend. What about your mother? The board? All the people who think we don't belong together. They'll come around, Ethan said confidently. And if they don't, that's their loss. All that matters is what you and I want. Amara looked into his eyes, seeing nothing but love and sincerity. In that moment, all her doubts and fears seemed to melt away. This man loved her, truly, deeply loved her. And she loved him just as much. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, Ethan, I'll marry you. His face broke into the most beautiful smile she'd ever seen. He stood, pulling her into his arms and lifting her off the ground in his excitement. When he set her down, he kissed her, a kiss full of promise and joy and hope for their future together. I don't have a ring, he realized suddenly. I didn't plan this. I just needed to find you. Amara laughed, wiping away happy tears. I don't need a ring. I just need you. They held each other close, both marveling at the journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun with a reckless vow had become the most important promise of their lives. Let's go home, Ethan said softly, kissing her forehead. Home, Amara repeated, the word filled with new meaning. Home wasn't a place. It was wherever they were together. Hand in hand, they left Jade's apartment, stepping out into the bright sunlight of a new day and a new beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their love a shield against judgment and prejudice. The gossip would eventually die down. The board would adjust, and as for Clara Calloway, well, that might take longer. But Ethan and Amara were prepared for the fight. confident in their love and in each other. As they drove back to the city, Amara looked over at Ethan, at his strong profile, his kind eyes, the smile that now seemed permanently etched on his face, and felt a happiness she had never known before. Sometimes, the most unexpected beginnings led to the most beautiful journeys, and this journey she knew was only just beginning. Across town, Clara Calloway sat in her elegant garden room, staring at the newspaper in her hands. The front page showed her son at his press conference, his face determined as he declared his love for Amara Lewis. For the first time in years, Clara felt uncertain. She had been so sure she was right, so certain she knew what was best for Ethan, but the look in his eyes when he'd walked out of her house, the pain, the resolve, the disappointment had shaken her. She thought of her late husband, of how he'd built his company from nothing, how he'd loved Ethan fiercely and completely. What would he say about all this? Would he side with her, insisting on suitable connections and maintaining appearances? Or would he tell her she was being a fool, pushing away their only son for the sake of pride? Clara set down the newspaper and moved to the window, looking out at the garden her husband had designed for her. He had always said that love was the most important thing in life, more important than money or status or what other people thought. She'd forgotten that somewhere along the way. With a heavy sigh, Clara picked up her phone. It was time to make a difficult call, perhaps the most difficult of her life. But as she dialed her son's number, she felt a small spark of hope. It wasn't too late to make things right. It wasn't too late to choose love over pride, just as Ethan had done. Amara stood in the small dressing room of the garden venue, her heart racing as Tasha adjusted the simple white dress that flowed around her curves. 6 months had passed since Ethan's public declaration of love. 6 months of planning and preparing, of healing old wounds and building new bridges. And now finally their wedding day had arrived. "Stop fidgeting," Tasha scolded gently, smoothing the dress's delicate lace sleeve. "You're going to wrinkle everything." "I can't help it," Amara replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I still can't believe this is happening." Jade looked up from arranging the bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. "Believe it, girl. In 30 minutes, you'll be Mrs. Calloway." "Actually, I'm keeping Lewis professionally," Amara corrected. "But yes, personally, I'll be Amara Calloway." She smiled at the sound of her new name. "It still feels like a dream." A soft knock on the door interrupted them. Amara's mother, Patricia, peeked in, her eyes immediately filling with tears at the sight of her daughter. "Oh, baby," she whispered, coming to stand beside Amara. "You look absolutely beautiful." Patricia Lewis was a tall, elegant woman with the same warm brown eyes as her daughter. She'd been wary when Amara first told her about Ethan, concerned about the differences in their backgrounds and the tabloid attention. But after meeting him and seeing how he looked at her daughter, Patricia had become one of their strongest supporters. "Daddy's waiting outside," she said, dabbing at her eyes carefully to avoid smudging her makeup. "He's trying to act tough, but he's already gone through 2 handkerchiefs." Everyone laughed, the sound helping to settle Amara's nerves. Her family, her mother, father, and younger brother, had been her rock throughout the engagement. When Clara Calloway had initially refused to attend the wedding, when some board members had expressed concern about Ethan's decision, when the gossip sites had continued their nasty speculation, her family had stood firmly beside her, reminding her that love was worth fighting for. Another knock on the door, firmer this time. 10 minutes. "Ladies," called the wedding coordinator. "I should go find my seat," Patricia said, squeezing Amara's hand. "Remember what I told you." "Follow my heart and trust in love," Amara recited with a smile. It was her mother's favorite advice, given to her since childhood. After Patricia left, Tasha made a few final adjustments to Amara's hair, a crown of soft curls adorned with tiny white flowers. "Perfect," she declared, stepping back to admire her work. "Ethan's going to faint when he sees you." Amara laughed, though her stomach fluttered with butterflies. "Let's hope not. I'd like him conscious for the vows." A final check in the mirror, and it was time. Amara took a deep breath, picked up her bouquet and stepped out into the hallway where her father waited. James Lewis, tall and distinguished in his new suit, broke into a wide smile that quickly wavered as tears filled his eyes. "Princess," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "you're the most beautiful bride I've ever seen. Amara felt tears threatening her own composure. "Don't make me cry, Daddy. Tasha will kill us both if my makeup runs." He laughed, offering his arm. "Ready to marry your CEO?" "More than ready," she replied, slipping her hand through his elbow. The garden venue had been Amara's idea, an elegant compromise between Ethan's preference for something grand and her desire for something intimate. White chairs lined a grassy aisle that led to a flower-covered arch. About 50 guests were seated, a small gathering of their closest friends and family. As the music began, Tasha and Jade walked down the aisle first, each in a simple sage-green dress that complemented their skin tones beautifully. Then the wedding march started, and all the guests rose to their feet. Amara's grip on her father's arm tightened as they began to walk. Her eyes immediately found Ethan, standing tall and handsome in his black tuxedo, watching her with such love and wonder that her heart nearly stopped. At the altar, her father placed her hand in Ethan's with a whispered, "Take care of my little girl." "With my life," Ethan promised, his eyes never leaving Amara's face. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They had written their own vows, words that spoke of unexpected beginnings, of courage and trust, of choosing love over fear. "Amara," Ethan said, his voice strong and clear, "when you walked into my office that day, something inside me recognized you, even though we'd never really met. Call it fate, call it destiny, call it the most impulsive thing I've ever said coming true, but I knew. You were the one I'd been waiting for, even when I didn't know I was waiting." Tears slipped down Amara's cheeks as he continued. "I promise to love you without reservation, to support you in your goals, to laugh with you and cry with you, to grow with you in mind and spirit, to always seek out the best in you, and to cherish the love we share for all the days of my life." And when it was her turn, Amara's voice trembled slightly before finding its strength. "Ethan, you came into my life like a whirlwind, turning everything upside down with one reckless vow. I was scared and doubtful, certain that a love like this couldn't be real. But you were patient. You showed me that true love isn't about where we come from or what others think. It's about two hearts finding each other and deciding to walk forward together no matter what." She squeezed his hands, drawing courage from his steady gaze. "I promise to trust you and respect you, to support and encourage you, to laugh and cry with you, to share my hopes and dreams with you, and to bring joy to our relationship. I promise to love you without hesitation for all the days of my life." They exchanged rings, simple gold bands that symbolized their eternal commitment. And when the officiant declared them husband and wife, Ethan pulled Amara into a kiss so tender and full of promise that the small audience burst into applause and cheers. Hand in hand, they walked back down the aisle as Mr. and Mrs. Calloway both beaming with joy. The garden reception was just beginning, with fairy lights twinkling in the trees and soft music playing, when Amara noticed Ethan's expression change. He was looking past her shoulder, his eyes widening slightly. She turned to follow his gaze and froze. Clara Calloway stood at the entrance to the garden, elegant in a pale blue dress, her expression uncertain. She hadn't RSVP'd to the invitation they'd sent against all hope. In fact, they hadn't spoken to her in nearly 2 months, not since their last attempt at reconciliation had ended in tense silence. "She came," Amara whispered, squeezing Ethan's hand. "Should I go to her?" he asked, clearly torn between joy at his mother's presence and fear of another rejection. "We'll go together," Amara decided, tugging him gently in Clara's direction. As they approached, Clara straightened her shoulders, her familiar poise returning. But there was something different in her eyes, a softness, perhaps even a hint of regret. "Mother," Ethan greeted her cautiously, "thank you for coming." "I almost didn't," Clara admitted, her voice lacking its usual sharpness, "but I realized I couldn't miss my only son's wedding, no matter how." She paused, seeming to search for the right word. "Unexpected the circumstances." It wasn't exactly warm, but it wasn't openly hostile either. For Clara Calloway, it was practically a peace offering. "We're glad you're here," Amara said, surprising herself with how much she meant it. Despite everything, she wanted Ethan to have his family whole. She understood the importance of family all too well. Clara's eyes moved to Amara, taking in the simple but elegant dress, the radiant happiness in her face. Something shifted in the older woman's expression. "You make a lovely bride," she said quietly. "And my son looks happier than I've ever seen him." "He makes me happy too," Amara replied simply. An awkward silence fell between them, years of tension and disapproval impossible to erase in a single moment. But it was a start, a tiny crack in the wall that had separated them. "Well," Clara said finally, "I should let you greet your other guests. Perhaps we could speak later." "We'd like that," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. He hesitated, then leaned in to kiss his mother's cheek. "Thank you for being here." As Clara moved away to find her seat, Amara felt Ethan's arm tighten around her waist. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "Better than okay," he replied, pressing his lips to her temple. "I have everything I need right here." The reception was magical. Dinner, under the stars, heartfelt toasts from Mark and Tasha, laughter and conversation flowing as freely as the champagne. Even the board members who had attended seemed to have finally accepted Ethan's choice, especially after seeing how happy and stable their CEO had become since Amara entered his life. When it was time for their first dance, Ethan led Amara to the center of the wooden dance floor that had been laid over the grass. As the music began, he pulled her close, one hand warm against the small of her back. "Have I told you today how much I love you, Mrs. Calloway?" he murmured. "Only about 20 times," she laughed softly. "But I don't mind hearing it again." "I love you," he whispered, pressing his forehead to hers. "More than I ever thought possible." They swayed to the music, lost in each other's eyes, the rest of the world fading away. This was what they had fought for, what they had risked everything, for this perfect understanding, this deep connection that transcended background or status, or what anyone else thought. "I still can't believe you made that crazy vow," Amara said, shaking her head slightly. "What if someone else had walked in?" Ethan grinned. "Then I wouldn't be the happiest man on earth right now." His expression grew more serious. "I think part of me was waiting for you, even before I knew you existed." "That's very romantic," Amara teased, though her heart swelled at his words. "I'll remind you of that the first time we have a real fight about whose turn it is to do the dishes." "I'll do all the dishes for the rest of our lives if it means waking up next to you every morning," he promised. "Careful, I'll hold you to that." As the song ended, guests began to join them on the dance floor. Amara danced with her father, who whispered how proud he was of her. Ethan danced with Patricia, who made him laugh and then grow serious as she shared some motherly advice. Later, as Amara stood by the punch bowl catching her breath after a lively dance with her brother, she was surprised to find Clara approaching her. "May I speak with you for a moment?" Clara asked, her voice quiet but firm. "Of course," Amara replied, following her to a quieter corner of the garden. Clara seemed to struggle with her words, something Amara had never seen before. The always composed, always certain Clara Calloway actually looked nervous. "I owe you an apology," she finally said. "My behavior toward you has been inexcusable." Amara waited, sensing there was more. "When Ethan first told me about you, I saw only what I wanted to see," Clara continued. "A young intern, someone from a different background, a potential threat to everything I'd planned for my son's life." She sighed, looking out over the reception where Ethan was laughing with Mark and some college friends. "I didn't see you, Amara. The real you. The woman who loves my son enough to walk away when she thought it would protect him. The woman who brings that light to his eyes that I haven't seen since he was a little boy." Clara turned back to Amara, her expression softening. "His father would have liked you, you know. Charles always valued authenticity over pretense. He would have seen in you what I was too blind to see." Amara felt her throat tighten with unexpected emotion. "Thank you for telling me that. I can't promise that I'll be the easiest mother-in-law," Clara said, a hint of her old directness returning. "Old habits and beliefs don't change overnight, but I can promise that I'll try, for Ethan's sake, and," she hesitated, "for yours as well." Impulsively, Amara reached out and took Clara's hand. "That's all any of us can do, try." The music changed to a slow, sweet melody. Clara looked toward the dance floor where Ethan was searching the crowd, clearly looking for his bride. "You should go to him," she said softly. "He's waiting for you." Amara nodded, squeezing Clara's hand once before letting go. As she walked away, she heard Clara call her name. Turning back, she saw something she never expected, a genuine smile on her mother-in-law's face. "Welcome to the family, Amara." 4 simple words, but they meant everything. 2 years later, Amara sat at her desk in the bright, airy office of Lewis Design, the marketing agency she had started with Tasha a year after the wedding. On her computer screen was the latest campaign for a new client, a small but growing tech company that reminded her of Callaway Tech in its early days. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Meeting running late. We'll pick you up at 6:30 instead of 6, love you." She smiled, typing back, "No problem. Mom says dinner will wait. Love you too." Tonight was her parents' 33rd wedding anniversary, and the whole family was gathering to celebrate, including Clara, who had slowly but steadily become a part of their lives, growing closer not just to Ethan but to Amara as well. It hadn't always been easy. There had been tense moments, old prejudices occasionally surfacing, misunderstandings that needed clearing. But Clara had kept her promise to try, and that effort had gradually transformed into genuine affection and respect. Amara's hand moved unconsciously to her slightly rounded belly. 4 months pregnant, she was finally past the morning sickness stage and starting to feel the glow everyone talked about. They had decided to wait to learn the baby's sex, wanting to be surprised when their little one arrived in the spring. The board of Callaway Tech, the same board that had once questioned Ethan's judgment, had sent an enormous gift basket when they announced the pregnancy, along with a miniature desk nameplate that read, "Future CEO." A knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. Tasha peeked in, holding a stack of design samples. "Ready to review these before you leave for your mom's dinner?" she asked. "Definitely," Amara replied, clearing space on her desk. "Ethan's running late anyway." As they worked through the designs, Amara felt a wave of gratitude for how everything had turned out. Her agency was thriving, focusing on helping small minority-owned businesses build their brands. Ethan had not just kept control of Callaway Tech, but had expanded it in new directions, emphasizing diversity in hiring and community investment, and they had each other, a partnership built on love, respect, and the courage to choose each other even when it wasn't easy. Later that evening, as everyone gathered around her parents' dining table, Amara looked around at the faces she loved most in the world. Her father, still tall and strong, now with touches of grey at his temples. Her mother, whose wisdom and kindness had guided Amara throughout her life. Her brother David, who had finally settled down with a lovely kindergarten teacher. Ethan, whose hand rested protectively on her back, whose love had never wavered, and Clara sitting beside Patricia, the 2 women deep in conversation about the best way to prepare a nursery for a new baby. Who could have imagined such a scene 2 years ago? As her father stood to propose a toast to 33 years of marriage, Amara felt Ethan's lips brush her ear. "Happy," he whispered. "More than I ever dreamed possible," she replied truthfully. James Lewis raised his glass, his eyes shining with emotion as he looked at his wife. "To Patricia, who has been my heart for 33 years. And to love that grows stronger with each passing day, that overcomes every obstacle, that sees beyond differences to the person within." He glanced meaningfully at Ethan and Amara before continuing. "May we all be blessed with the courage to choose love, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult to love," everyone echoed, glasses clinking around the table. Under the table, Ethan's hand found Amara's and squeezed gently. They didn't need words to communicate what they were both feeling, gratitude for the journey that had brought them here, joy in the present moment, and hope for all the days to come. Later that night, as they lay in bed in their cozy house, a compromise between Ethan's preference for luxury and Amara's desire for comfort, Ethan's hand rested on her growing belly. "Do you ever think about that day?" he asked softly. "The day you walked into my office?" Amara smiled in the darkness. "Only every time I see your face light up when I walk into a room. I meant what I said, you know," Ethan murmured. "That ridiculous vow. Deep down, I think I was ready to find you, ready to love you. Even though I was just an intern from the wrong side of town," she teased gently. You were never just anything, he said, pulling her closer. You were everything I didn't know I needed. Amara turned in his arms to face him, tracing the familiar lines of his face with her fingertips. And you were the most unexpected blessing of my life, she whispered. My arrogant, impulsive CEO with a heart of gold. Hey, less of the arrogant, he protested with a soft laugh. Fine, my handsome, brilliant CEO who made the best reckless vow in history. His hand moved to cup her cheek, his blue eyes serious in the soft glow of moonlight through the window. I love you, Amara Calloway, forever and always. And I love you, she replied, sealing the words with a kiss. Forever and always. As they drifted to sleep in each other's arms, Amara thought about the journey that had brought them here. From that first startled meeting in his office, to the struggles with Clara. From the gossip and prejudice they'd faced, to the triumph of their love over every obstacle. Life wasn't perfect, it never would be, but it was beautifully, wonderfully real. And in the end, that was the greatest gift of all. A love born not from a prideful dare, but from the courage to be vulnerable, to trust to choose each other every single day. A love that had healed old wounds, bridged different worlds, and created something new and precious in the space between. A love that would guide them through whatever lay ahead. Parenthood, career changes, life's inevitable ups and downs, with the certainty that they would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart, forever and always. 30 years later, on a warm summer evening, much like the day they were married, Ethan and Amara Calloway stood in the same garden where they had exchanged their vows. Grey touched Ethan's temples now, and laugh lines marked Amara's beautiful face. But the love in their eyes when they looked at each other had only deepened with time. Behind them, their children and grandchildren gathered for a family photo. Their daughter Olivia, now a successful doctor, with her husband and twin boys. Their son Charles, who had taken over Calloway Tech with his wife and little girl. And their youngest, Maya, a passionate artist who had her father's blue eyes and her mother's curly hair. Grandma, Grandpa, look at the camera, called one of the twins, giggling. Ethan pulled Amara close, his arm around her waist just as it had been when they shared their first dance as husband and wife. Ready for 30 more years, Mrs. Calloway, he whispered. Amara smiled up at him, her heart as full as it had been on their wedding day. With you? Always. The camera flashed, capturing the moment. Not just two people who had shared a life together, but two souls who had chosen love over fear, vulnerability over pride, and each other over everything else. It had all started with a reckless vow and the courage to believe it could be real. And it had become the greatest love story either of them could have imagined. Forever and always, just as they had promised. The end.